I'm going to fight my instinct to pummel you with questions about Trump.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm like still in paralysis mode, so if we're going to cry on stage together, we should do it probably at the end of the interview.
Save it to the end.
Perfect. So let's talk about TaskRabbit. You took over in April, correct?
Yes.
So about as long as I've been at Recode, actually. And so what happened at that point? Why did Leah step down?
Yeah, so we both got new jobs at the same time.
Yeah.
The good news is I've been at TaskRabbit already for almost 4 years. We had reached a point of significant growth in the company, and we were ready to scale. And when I joined TaskRabbit 4 years ago, I left Google. When I started at Google 2003, it was 1,000 people. When I left, it was 50,000 people. So I had seen significant scale.
50,000 taskers, like people.
1,000 people at Google.
Oh, Google,
And
sorry.
then when I came to TaskRabbit, I spent my first 3 years thinking about how to really change the growth trajectory of the company. We positioned ourselves as the leader in on-demand home services, and with the growth that we were seeing, it was time to really scale the business. And so Leah decided she was ready to pass the baton on to me, and I was honored to take up the opportunity.
Yeah, and so when you started as COO, it was sort of a transition period, like you said, for the company. And so talk to me a little bit about the difference in what the company looked like when you started as CEO and what it looked like when you took on the role as CEO.
When I started, the business model was different. We were very much an auction-based company. You could get anything done on TaskRabbit, and you had to debate back and forth with the tasker who was going to do the work. We changed the business model 2 years ago to really focus on direct hiring. And so today on TaskRabbit, your task is assigned in 5 minutes. We've increased our fulfillment, we've changed the growth trajectory, and we've focused specifically on home services around the categories that matter. So handyman and cleaning are our largest categories, plus moving. And that focus, what it did was allowed us to be in a position where we could target a certain type of customer who loves a seamless, frictionless experience, wants to set it and forget it, and just get her task done.
It's interesting because there are a lot of other companies that have tried and failed to do things like home cleaning. I mean, what are you guys doing differently? You guys were founded in 2008, correct?
Yes, that's right.
It's been 8 years.
Yeah.
How are you still around?
Right. Well, we've always focused on sustainable unit economics. I mean, we've really built this business over the last 8 years on sustaining the way that we grow and funding ourselves through that growth. And so what happened is as we understood our customer, we figured out how to market to them. We figured out how to drive profitable margins, and we're now profitable in every city that we operate on an operating income basis. And because of that, we can still continue to sustain ourselves through all the ups and downs. We never over-invested in areas where we didn't think we could drive growth, and we only invested in areas where we knew we could drive growth. And so today, handyman is actually our largest category. What we saw happening was a few people were doing IKEA furniture assemblies, and now tens of thousands of people use TaskRabbit to get IKEA furniture assembled.
Interesting. And so what are some of the categories that you decided not to invest in?
Things like photography. There was a small focus on businesses and helping businesses hire personal assistants and executive assistants, and we don't spend a lot of time on those categories either.
But those still exist on the platform?
Not really. If you want to try to find somebody, good luck. But we've really focused our tasker community and our supply base around home services.
Right. And so you guys, speaking of funding, you mentioned you guys have now raised $50 million?
Yes.
And that was in August of 2015?
So we've raised $50 million over the last several years.
Your last round was in August 2015, correct? And so are you in the middle of trying to raise more money? Do you need to raise more money?
Well, we've always focused on profitability, and we still have a clear plan to get to profitability. We've started to invest more, and there's a big investment that we're making that I can't, unfortunately, share about with you today.
Sure.
I can't today, but I think in a few weeks, you'll start to read the news about what we're doing. So we start to make some really
I'd like to be writing the news about
what you guys are doing. Maybe we can talk after.
And so, I mean, can you tell me a little bit, like an idea of what that investment looks like?
One of the things that we've learned is that our tasker community is about 60,000 registered taskers, and we're a people-powered business. We basically powered a set of independent contractors to give them opportunities for work.
Yeah.
And what that means is we have an ERP system essentially that we've built that gives them the ability to know when they're going to work, set their own schedules, interact with their clients, have insurance that protects them in the background, and process all their payments. Because we've built this large community, there's a lot of big companies out there who are interested in accessing and tapping into that workforce to fulfill their demand. for more services that they want to offer to their clients. So that's as much as I'll say.
So is it a partnership that almost looks like the partnership you guys have with Amazon?
Very similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it a company that's competing with Amazon?
Well, I won't say more than that. Okay.
All right, we'll talk later.
Yeah, we'll talk later.
And so you mentioned independent contractors. You know, since you guys have started, the independent contractor thing wasn't a new thing that the tech industry invented, like using freelancers, but we popularized it. I say we, being the tech industry, but companies like TaskRabbit, companies like Uber popularized the use of independent contractors. But since then, there have been a slew of lawsuits. There have been people who are fighting to be classified as employees and things like that. And you guys haven't been sued yet.
We have not.
Why is that?
You know, one of the things that we focused on is building a community around our taskers. And it's not just about assigning work or having people sign up for certain shifts. We focused on giving our taskers the agency and control to really define when and how they want to work. They have a tremendous amount of flexibility. Number two is the average hourly rate on TaskRabbit is $35 an hour. So you can make a meaningful income.
But that's not a standard that you guys set. It's by virtue of the marketplace. Like this is what people are willing to pay.
That's right.
Gotcha.
Taskers get to set their own hourly rates, set their own schedule. And so what we've done, 90% of our taskers are part-time. They're not on TaskRabbit for a full-time job, but that income for them is a meaningful portion of what they need to make. They're paying 1 to 3 major bills. 50% of the time, this is supplementing real responsibilities that they have financially at home.
Right.
And so because we've built community, created a way for them to set their own hourly rates and earn a meaningful income, we haven't seen the sort of backlash that maybe some other companies have actually experienced around it. In fact, we've seen a lot of support for continuing the expansion and growth of the company.
Interesting. And so does it have anything to do, is it because most people are part-timers, or do you think that if people were depending on TaskRabbit for a full-time position that maybe there would be a little bit more of a backlash?
So 10% are, full-time on TaskRabbit. What we've really seen is that there's just a new normal around work. A lot of people, when I graduated from college a long, long time ago, I was told to go get a full-time job.
Right.
And work at that job for a certain amount of time and then maybe go to another job. Today, the people who task on TaskRabbit don't actually live in a world where they think that a full-time job is actually going to meet their needs. So we've really entered a new normal for working. And what our taskers want is for this new normal to survive some of the challenges around regulation, but also to thrive in this world as well.
It's interesting. So, just to go back, there have been all these lawsuits, Uber and Lyft, and I think a couple of other companies have been sort of subject to this. People want to be considered employees. And in your terms of service, you guys specifically say that you cannot sue the company for employee misclassification. Is that a new thing, or is that something that you've had from the get-go?
That's something that we've always had. I think that there's more people who are reading the terms and conditions now, like lawyers who are trying to understand what it is. But we've always been a marketplace. We've always operated as a platform. We've always been a place where clients can come and get things done. Taskers can come and offer their services and set their own hourly rate and work together. And so the interaction that happens ultimately is between that client and that tasker, and that's how the business has always been built.
So who do you see now as your competitors? I was at Thumbtack yesterday, and Marco Zapatista, I think that's how you pronounce it, he said that he does not consider you guys a competitor because they're much larger.
Yeah, I think we're different businesses. I mean, they've really focused on, number one, lead generation. So they created a marketplace where you can go and find 3 people who are available to do something for you, and then you can negotiate that entire interaction with those people, figure out how the cost is going to work and the payment is going to work. The client that we support and who's our fastest growing client in our marketplace doesn't want to do that. She wants to know who's going to do that job, when it's going to happen,
said she.
And how it's definitely a she, and how it's going to be done. And so she can get that certainty in 5 minutes on TaskRabbit.
Right.
So we have a different demographic, and for that reason, we probably aren't competitors. I think that, one of the things that we see in terms of our challenges and our competition is people doing it themselves.
Yeah.
And they want to DIY. And we think that there's a world where there's plenty of things around your home, in doing your chores that you want to do yourself, but there's also things that you don't want to do or you can't do. We don't all have a level in our home. So if you buy a new TV and you want that TV mounted and you want somebody professional to come and do it, you can find somebody in 5 minutes on TaskRabbit to come and do it for you.
So as technology advances, things are becoming more and more automated. And you've said publicly that you don't think that, people who use TaskRabbit or perform tasks on TaskRabbit are vulnerable to the negative impact of automation. Talk me through a little bit why you say that.
Yeah, I think that, and I even heard automation in the last conversation. It's become a nice word for how to think about artificial intelligence. I do believe that there are things that will be automated, but the future of the sharing economy will be faster and slower than you think. Automation will happen fast, and it's already happening. As a Hack Day project a year ago, we actually hacked the skill on Alexa to call somebody to replace the filter in your refrigerator. Right. And there will be a world where you don't actually have to type that into your phone. You can actually the refrigerator will make an API call directly to TaskRabbit saying the filter needs to be replaced, and a person will show up. But in
How far off is that world for you guys?
I think it's 5 to 10 years away. But I do think that people are not machines.
Right.
So when we think about the first wave of automation, it's all about machines learning how to talk and communicate. But in the end, we can tell our dishwasher when to turn on, we can tell the dryer when to turn on, but someone's got to put the clothes in there and take them out, and for the foreseeable future, that will be a human being.
But why couldn't we have a robot put the clothes in the dishwasher or the clothes in the laundry?
I think we all would want that.
I can't even say it, so
yeah, exactly.
I think a robot could replace me.
When I grew up, I used to watch the Jetsons. I don't know if anyone's old enough to appreciate that show. And they had Rosie, the housekeeper. And I think there's a world in 10, maybe 15 years where there is somebody who can do some of these things for you, but the specialized services will require humans for the next 5 to 10 years, because the sophistication around how we drill a hole in a brick wall can't be taught. It's really hard to teach those things. And the trust that's required to have somebody come into your home and do something that's important and special to you will require a human being.
And so, you say for the foreseeable future, that's probably what it looks like. But beyond that, I don't know if you will still be around or I will still be around, or even if TaskRabbit will still be around. But what do you feel is sort of your responsibility toward your workers as things become more automated? Let's say Google comes out and says, here's the robot that will do your dishes for you. And what do you do? What is your responsibility toward your workers in that scenario?
I think our responsibility, we've always, as the pioneer of the sharing economy, we've always thought about shaping the future of work. And continuing to shape the future of work. And so as people have gone from working a traditional 40 hours a week to wanting a more flexible lifestyle and a more flexible way of earning an income, we've built a platform that allows you to do that. As the future of work changes, we will continue to focus on those specialized services that will need to be done by a human being, because I don't see a world where everybody is a robot. Because if that's the case, what's the point of you and me?
I think there isn't a point, is the idea.
What's the point of human relationships? I think that people are always going to be seeking a reason to relate and a reason to get to know each other, and the emotional side of humans interacting with each other is what makes the TaskRabbit experience what it is. So we'll continue to evolve our business model to make sure that those specialized services are the ones that we are able to offer.
Gotcha. And so speaking of automation, how has TaskRabbit become more automated, the platform itself?
Yeah, a lot of the science behind what we do has been built by our data science team. We've got a really sophisticated matching algorithm that understands everything we need to know about our taskers who are available to work, and everything we can know about you who want to get something done. And so because of that automation, we can facilitate a match within a few minutes. And because of that automation, we can also fulfill those tasks almost 90% of the time. So 9 out of 10 times your task gets done on TaskRabbit. And without this sort of location-based understanding, without the sophistication of being able to analyze text around what you post to get done on TaskRabbit, we wouldn't be able to do that.
And so how many what do you call them? TaskRabbits? Taskers? Taskers do you have on the platform now?
We have 60,000 registered.
Okay. And then how many users do you have?
Oh, we have over 1 million. Well over users.
And which markets are you in now?
We're in 19 cities.
And you're
primarily in the U.S. We also have a big operation in London.
Gotcha. And when did you launch in London?
We launched London 3 years ago. Okay. We haven't had to launch a new market in 3 years. We've been able to really just grow and increase our penetration in our existing markets.
And are you profitable in London as well?
We are profitable in every city that we operate in on an operating income basis.
So you said, I think on the podcast with Kara, that you're on track to be profitable. Are you still on track, or are you guys profitable as a company?
We're still on track to be profitable.
For when?
Yeah, very soon.
Very soon.
Very soon.
What is very soon?
Well, some of the investments that we're making that I can't talk too much about are definitely sort of things that we've decided to do that will push out the decision around profitability, but it's a conscious choice that we've made.
Gotcha. And so what is the not end game for TaskRabbit, but are you guys planning on IPOing?
I think that TaskRabbit should exist everywhere. I've never been anywhere in the world where the company shouldn't be. I really think about our vision around revolutionizing everyday work and the opportunity to create everyday work for everyday people. And so I believe that we should expand this business and grow the company and exist all over the world. The capital required to do that can come from public markets or private markets.
But are you planning on IPOing?
We love to see that in the future. And, to me, I think about an IPO as a financing opportunity that we'll consider with everything else that we have.
Yeah. So Amazon launched Amazon Home Services, and they partnered with TaskRabbit as opposed to sort of going off on their own and attempting to do this from scratch. I mean, are you at all worried about partnering with a company that could potentially, sort of compete with you guys?
Yeah, having worked at a big company and understand that a lot of big companies think about different ways that they do things, we looked at Amazon and said, this is a good opportunity for us to give more work to our taskers. We have this great supply of taskers who are amazing at what they do, particularly around TV mounting.
Right.
And here's a great opportunity to give them opportunities for work. I don't worry about the competition in that way because I do believe that as we build our competitive advantage around the community of our taskers, the platform, the ERP system that backs them, we will be able to compete.
So would you sell to Amazon if they wanted to buy you?
I don't think about acquisitions because I do think we should continue to expand. But if Amazon wanted to have a conversation with us, we would, as a, shareholder of the company and a board member, I have a responsibility to my board to bring any opportunity that comes our way.
Right, but so what would Amazon have to offer you for you to be like, this is a good deal?
If someone from Amazon is in the audience and wants to offer some suggestions, please raise your hand. That's a conversation that I would have with Amazon. I think that the beauty of what we're doing is embracing that the fabric of America is changing. And core to that is the values around how people live their lives. They really want affordable services that matter to them. And I think if we could partner with a company and it made sense to continue to extend that partnership with a company that values what we value at TaskRabbit, then it's worth having a conversation with them.
So yes, you would consider it. So I do want to switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
We are now post-election. I have very little actual wisdom to provide about this election, but I do want to talk to you about, before we start talking about the hard stuff, Donald Trump wants to repeal or at least amend a lot of Obamacare. And a lot of executives in the sharing economy have talked about how that's been a boon for, gig economy workers because they have this benefit without it being provided by their employers. If that goes away, how do freelancers, how do independent contractors survive in Trump's America?
Yeah. We've spent the last 2 years really having proactive conversations in Washington about regulation.
Right.
And, when I say the future will be faster and slower than you think, the slow part is that the regulation continues to just be slow. And we've really focused on trying to educate DC and the federal government around the importance of portable benefits, the importance of this is a new normal in the way that we work, the importance of giving people the access to services that traditionally are tied to having a traditional W-2 job. And I don't want any of that progress to go away.
Right. And
so my concern is that that progress will slow down or stop or even be reversed. And you highlighted already Obamacare as one of those things that might happen. I hope that we have legislation that happens even next year that actually advances what we want in the sharing economy, which is the opportunity for our taskers to access benefits, access opportunities for retirement, and understand things like tax planning. I don't have an official statement or agenda around what will occur.
Right.
All we have right now is a campaign and things that were said in a campaign. And I hope that what happens next year will translate into some realities where the things that we've been spending the last 2 years talking about will be respected.
How likely do you think that is?
I don't know. I don't even have a percentage around it. And I share it with you. The outcome of this election has been, particularly surprising in a lot of ways for me. There's a lot of progress that we've made towards job creation for this company. And I hope that the focus on job creation is the one underpinning, if there are any underpinnings around the differences between the different parties, it's the one that remains at the forefront of what's important in this country.
And so you are in a unique position in the tech industry. You are one of few, women executives, Black women executives in the tech industry. Do you feel that there is an extra burden on you to speak out against people like Trump? Because this is not an election where there is any gray area. There's wrong and right at this point. Do you feel an extra burden to be the person to speak out?
Yeah, I've always talked in our company about bringing your whole self to work and being able to be fully who you are. And if that means there's an extra burden because I happen to be Black and a woman, then that's probably what we can call it. But the reality is that the truth sometimes hurts. And the truth is a lot of this election and the process around this campaign has inspired hate in ways that I didn't think our country was capable. And it's also highlighted for me a sense of hopelessness that people feel or experience that may not otherwise understand what that really means. And so I've talked a lot about the important thing that we can do here is try to seek to understand, even if it hurts, even if it's painful, because there's a lot of people who are hurting about what happened, and then try to be understood and have dialogues and have conversations. And so is there a burden? I don't feel like it's a burden. What I feel like is that I want people to seek to understand me and seek to understand who I am as a person, as an African-American woman, as a CEO of a company, as a woman who's raising 2 daughters, as someone who grew up in a house where my great-grandmother couldn't vote. And I had the opportunity to do it, and I exercised my right to vote. And so I hope that the country really comes together and tries to seek to understand. And if that doesn't happen, then we have to start making demands that does occur.
Who are we making demands to?
As people, we speak out. I think there are ways that at TaskRabbit that we're talking about how do we do something bigger and important with the company that we built. And I believe that job creation is the way that we can do that. The conversation around poverty and hopelessness and being poor and underrepresented is one that can unify people. The conversation around the opportunity that TaskRabbit has created to give people a way to work in a way that they couldn't work before is one that we can have a dialogue around, and that's what I want to focus on.
And so did you address your company internally after the election, correct? Yeah. And how do you, as a leader, try to move your company forward?
Last week was, for a lot of people, a week that changed a lot of people's lives. And I recognize that there are people in our company who were happy with the outcome, and there are people in the company who were not happy with the outcome. But I believe that all views in our company should be respected, even if they are different from your own personal views. I also believe that our values around being neighborly, around providing a delightful customer experience, around building a great product, around making the TaskRabbit experience that everyone respects.
But this is more than a difference of opinion at this point.
You think so?
I think so, because even if you did not vote for Trump for racist reasons, he has said racist things, he has said anti-woman things. The list goes on and on. So is it enough to say, we'll keep an open mind about it, I respect your opinion?
It's not enough to say, we'll keep it. I think it's not enough to say we'll keep an open mind, but without keeping an open mind, there's no way to start a conversation. I think that, the racist statements that were made, the sexist statements that were made hurt a lot of people, including me. But if I'm going to try to understand why someone would vote for someone who would make those statements, I have to keep an open mind. I have to try to find some common ground. I have to be willing to walk over to you and ask the question why. And if I'm not willing to do that, then how can I ever make progress? We can't.
On that note, if the audience has any questions, please come to the microphone. If not, I can still badger her about Trump.
Yeah.
And so you guys are not going to be we're going to go back from Trump and start something else. You guys aren't trying to raise money now, are you? Should I be writing
Every company of our size should always be thinking about raising money. So, yes, if you're a growing business, then you're thinking about raising money.
Right, and so, given that, venture capital is supposedly drying up, are you turning to traditional sources of capital now? Or are there people who have grown, they've already invested in their gig economy company? Are you looking at other sources now?
Yeah, we've got some great investors who are venture capitalists on our board already. And so a next round of funding from us could certainly be from a broader group. As we think about expanding the business and growing the business, there are obviously potential strategic partners that we could work with. As we think about going more global in what we do, there are people who aren't necessarily in Silicon Valley who would be interested in being a part of the growth story of TaskRabbit. So yeah, I think if you're at our stage, you certainly would cast a broader net in terms of how you think about future investors.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, the floor is open for the audience if you guys want to ask any questions. And I'm going to switch back to Trump again.
Right here.
So first, thank you for bringing your whole self here. The question I have is about the way that on TaskRabbit, there's a very much sort of a not standardization of people, right? That everyone is unique in what they offer. And I can see how that's an enormous asset, maybe part of why the hourly rates are so much higher than in highly standardized labor like you see on an Uber, on a Lyft. But it also poses a large challenge to finding what you're looking for from the consumer side of saying, well, I don't know exactly the words. How do you approach that? Do you see a friction there that there are ways to overcome?
Yeah, I think, you've hit on this topic of quality and the opportunity for people to list what they do and describe what they do and have the flexibility without the standardization sort of forces us to think really hard about quality. So what we've done is we've tried to build a little bit more standardization, and as you've seen, if you've followed us over the last few years, we've really tried to give our taskers the ability to learn new tips and tricks, attend workshops that other ambassadors organize who are experts in, say, drilling holes in brick walls, that will give them the tools that they need to be successful at majority of the tasks that get done in the marketplace. But we really like to give clients and our consumers the opportunity to have choice. And so we balance that need by trying to maintain and sustain a high quality experience.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was wondering where you see TaskRabbit in like 5 years. You look at a lot of companies like Uber started getting into food, and there's like these really big plans in the Valley. And so when you're thinking, like, are you kind of just gonna focus on city expansion, or are there other things that you wanna do?
Yeah, well, home services is a $400 billion market, so we are at the very beginning of being able to tap into that market. So for the next 3 to 5 years, we will be doubling down on investing in our categories around handyman, moving, and things like that. And then, as we expand bigger in the markets that we're already in, we can see natural opportunities to move into some other markets. I do think there are adjacent services after that 3 to 5 year time frame that could be interesting around home services, but we really want to own the experience that you have inside your house. There's people who are owning driving you around, people who are owning bringing things to your door, and there's yet to be a clear winner around doing things inside your house. And we focused on building trust. We focused on quality, like we just talked about, around the chores that you need to get done so you can live your life, and that's the future.
So all inside the home for the next 10 years or so, and then maybe, I was just trying to think of where you could go, and I always find that so interesting when people think of kind of the next step, but so.
Yeah, I think inside the home and, outside the home in your garden probably, but if it's a $400 billion market, we could clean, you can imagine we're already cleaning your gutters and washing your windows. We could add things like garden, but think about the entire home and the experience that you have around your entire home. as the opportunity for TaskRabbit.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. That's all the time we have. I really appreciate you for bringing your
you.
whole self.